one thing that came through for me across these conversations was the importance of the buy-in from the executive level, but also equally the understanding, as Martin referred to in the last slide, the understanding from the two levels down. Let me just go through the quotes again. So Christo, in our organization up until 2 years ago, we had different business units based on 2 different technologies, but our board reorganized and we now have 3 units, with service being the third. Service has now a seat at the executive table, and that has been a real game changer. Now service has a very high profile. It is no longer that secondary part of the discussion which just gets added to the end of the product sale. Again, echoing what Kieran said there about after sales and service. This is something that I put across as well. I hate to quote myself, but it was a relevant point. The service side of the organization has to fight for priority and capacity, and a shared understanding of the value of the long-term service relationship may ensure the organization will accept the required investment in this case. On the other hand, if a company splits the operations, the problem becomes a handover from the new build or installation to service and customer relationship management. The key is to realize what is the inside of the battle and to establish common ground to work together for a greater good. This was something that I started to see. I've done a couple of different bits and pieces of work with other organizations as well that was kind of referenced in there. And it's quite often a common dichotomy between this new innovative organization or adventure within the organization, building out this servitized or advanced services product, competing with not only product sales, but the standard traditional service approach as well. Kieran, I'd like to get your opinion on this, actually. One of the things that came up in this conversation and in this session was the concept of tiger teams or satellite teams being given the freedom to do that innovation, the freedom to fail falling forwards, I guess. Do you think that kind of approach is necessary in the organizations that you've worked with, both that you've helped with ServiceMax and previously? Do you think that that's the right way to do it, to have this kind of almost an incubator within the organization to allow the servitized model to kind of evolve naturally? What's your thoughts?
Well, the first thing I learned through the relationships I've had with my own experiences as a working in the service industry, and then again working for the software company like ServiceMax, but mostly through things like the think tank, is there's never a clear yes or no to these answers. And there's so many variables that come into play on there, and it's all about the verticals you're in. You look at things like new businesses like let's say solar panels. Right, solar panels have come up. They've come into the marketplace, and instead of going, "Oh, I'm going to sell you a solar panel," most of these large organisations have gone, "Well, do you know what? I'm going to sell you energy, and therefore you're going to pay me for X amount of energy. If I drop below that amount, then I'm going to give you something back. And if we go above that agreed amount and we give it back to the grid, for example, then we both share in that value." So there is a totally different aspect to if you're a new company, you have a little bit more freedom. Right, but then in some of the older, I shouldn't say older really, but so in some of the more standard, the more normal, the more companies that we expect to talk in day in, day out, it's realistically about understanding from top level, I personally think, about aligning the goals that people need. I mentioned earlier about whether supply chain is services friend or foe. If you think about the fundamental goals that are required by these two organizations, supply chain needs to reduce inventory. Service wants more inventory so it can increase its first time fix. Now, on the outset, that sounds like an argument. You've got a CFO saying reduce inventory. You've got a COO saying you need to do more work. You need to get that first time fix up. So there needs to be an alignment in the business. If you move into a siloed business, then you're not going to help anybody, your customers or yourself. So you need to have some sort of alignment. And you'll find that becomes possible maybe with some of these tiger teams, where they can bring in people from each one, and they're freed up to do, free thinking that isn't constrained by their MBOs or their KPIs or their compensation packages. Because at the end of the day, we are all humans and we like to get paid more. Right? So there's a personal gain in this as well, and it's about understanding what that is. And then of course there's always the other piece is, when you come up with these great ideas and these visions, does your customer want to join in with that vision? Are they acceptable to it, or indeed are they actually against it? And then if you find the ones that are acceptable to it, can you actually manage it? You know, what infrastructure do you have to actually manage that offering that you're giving? Because it's different, it's new. So there's so many little steps which generally become a hindrance to actually fulfilling that new need. And then we find other service businesses, for example, won't want to make that leap because it's not 100% accurate. You know, instead of getting to 80, 90% and then going for it, they want to wait till they get to 100%. And you know, sometimes that'll never happen. It's with experience that you get to 100%, not in the creation of the package. So I think there's huge amount of elements to that. But I think the world is dictating a newer approach. You know, when we heard from Coen and Daniel earlier, and the guys, all of the guys in there were looking at new initiatives, new intelligence, new ways of doing business. Yeah, even to the point that Jed, I know, you know, we'll talk about Jed later when it comes up to Jed from Jed from Canota, right? Said that he made a great statement. He said, we want to do service where we don't need service technicians. That's his ultimate goal. I mean, that's a strange concept. But if you have the vision and you have the ability to deliver it, it's a great concept.